What's good, YouTubers and YouTubettes? This is JB Sports, back again with another one. Undisputed welterweight champion Terrence Bud Crawford, former undisputed junior welterweight champion Terrence Bud Crawford, current and consensus #1 pound for pound fighter in boxing. Today, Terrence Bud Crawford is a man that keeps receipts. Terrence Crawford is just recently going in on contenders in the welterweight division, a contender in the junior middleweight division, a guy that reports were saying that his next fight was going to be for a regular middleweight title. Danny Swift Garcia, who recently came out and stated that he would like to take on Terrence Bud Crawford. If that opportunity presented itself, he would definitely take that fight. Now, Terrence Crawford ain't trying to hear it. Terrence Crawford said, when I was on the other side of the street for Top Rank Boxing, you wasn't trying to see me. When I tried to, or when my team tried to present you with the opportunity to fight for my WBO welterweight title, you said there wasn't enough money in it to satisfy you and make you take on that challenge and cross that side of the street onto my side of the street on ESPN. Keith Thurman has recently come out right after the destruction by Crawford over Spence. He came out and said that he'd like to get the Terrence Crawford fight. Terrence Crawford is telling him the same thing he's telling Danny Garcia. When I was with Top Rank Boxing on the so-called other side of the street, you weren't trying to fight me. Now that I'm the creme de la creme, I'm that nigga, now you want some smoke. Because you know that's a big check gonna be involved if you fight me now. Now. When I was trying to make the fight happen with you, you weren't trying to fight me. You were saying I was too small, I needed to prove myself at the welterweight division. That you were the top dog, you was unified welterweight champion. And basically, I had proved myself at 147 pounds. Now that the tables have turned, according to Terrence Bud Crawford, he's basically a guy that holds grudges. He says, it's not my turn to make you sit down, be quiet, and quit mentioning my name, because it ain't going to happen. But when I was trying to fight you, when I had a belt not too long ago, and I was on the quote-unquote other side of the street, you weren't trying to fight me. So Terrence Crawford is a guy that keeps receipts, and he is a guy that has talked that talk and has walked that walk, and he's in prime position to not only make big money in his next fight, but if he continues to win, he'll be making some career high paydays from here on out. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. Now, definitely the next fight for Terrence Crawford will be against former unified welterweight champion Errol Spence Jr. That fight will take place at 154 pounds. From what I'm hearing, the fight won't happen this year. It'll happen at the beginning of 2024, as the fight was in the contract slated to take place in December. Now, the loser could exercise a rematch, and the winner would choose the weight, either 147 or 154. But from what I'm hearing, the PBC has reserved 2 dates in November and 2 dates in December. One for November 4th, one for November 11th. That's for the month of November. And then December 9th and December 30th. Now, from what I'm hearing, December 9th is out of the equation. Devin the Dream Haney will be taking on WBC junior welterweight champion Regis Prograis for his WBC junior welterweight title. That fight will be on the DAZN pay-per-view, so obviously the PBC will not be putting on a Showtime pay-per-view event on that date, so they'll definitely be putting on a fight instead on December 30th. And from what I'm hearing, that card is going to involve their top fighter under the PBC banner, Gervonta Tank Davis, who in my opinion will be either taking on Isaac Pitbull Cruz or Gary Russell Jr. And there's a dark horse candidate, and that is Frank Martin. I need to do a video on this whole Frank Martin, Shakur Stevenson saga, fiasco, however you want to call it, man, because there's a lot of misinformation going on about what transpired in that failed negotiation and the true reason why that fight is not coming to fruition. But I'm going to do that in another video. This video is about Terrence Crawford, a man that keeps receipts, a man who's going to get ready to take on Errol Spence Jr. at 154 pounds. Maybe they'll be able to finagle that fight into some kind of title fight at 154 as Jermell Charlo has moved up to 168 to take on the face of boxing, or one of the faces of boxing, along with Tank Davis, Canelo Alvarez. That fight's going to take place September 30th for Canelo's WBC, WBA, IBF, and WBO super middleweight titles. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. But interesting developments in the sport of boxing. Terrence Crawford, a man that keeps receipts. So he's basically telling Danny Garcia and Keith Thurman to go kick rocks. You're not going to get an opportunity at my 4 titles, plus the Ring magazine. You're not going to get a chance to prove that you are the #1 guy at 147 pounds, because when I was trying to fight you guys, y'all wasn't trying to make it happen. Y'all was saying I was on the opposite side of the street. In Danny Garcia's case, we sent you over a contract. You turned it down. You said it was not enough. But I can't really blame Danny Garcia and his team for turning that fight down, because the opponent that they ultimately chose was Amir Khan. Amir Khan got way more money than Danny Garcia was offered. Now, people will come out here and say, well, wait a minute, Amir Khan had a whole country behind him. He was a draw in the UK. He was bringing, another revenue stream to the table that Danny Garcia was not going to be able to bringing in the UK market. So I can understand that. But at the same time, when you're trying to bring in a guy that accomplished what Danny Garcia had accomplished, and Danny Garcia had beat Amir Khan. Say what you want to say about Amir Khan bringing in the UK market. When Amir Khan took on Danny Garcia, he got knocked out. He got put to sleep. He did the stanky leg. So Danny Garcia, inside that square circle, proved to be the better fighter. So I can understand Danny Garcia said, if you're going to offer Amir Khan that, why you didn't offer me that? I probably would have took the fight. I probably would have crossed the street. With all that being said, the tables have turned according to Terrence Crawford, and the Danny Garcia fight is never going to happen. It didn't happen when it's supposed to happen in Terrence Crawford's mind a few years ago. Same could be said for the Keith Thurman fight. And now those guys are trying to basically come back and beg for a fight. And Terrence Crawford, at this point in time, is not trying to oblige those guys. So we will see what happens. And we will see what transpires. But the likely scenario is, definitely Crawford's next fight is going to be against Errol Spence Jr. It'll be on Showtime pay-per-view in the first quarter of 2024. If he wins that fight, he'll be looking to take on Canelo Alvarez if he's successful versus Jermell Charlo. Now, a lot of people saying, well, if Jermell Charlo beats Canelo Alvarez, why don't we see Charlo versus Crawford? It's only one thing holding that fight up if Charlo wins. That's what you call a rematch clause that Canelo Alvarez has in the contract. So if Canelo Alvarez loses to Jermell Charlo, he will have the opportunity to exercise the rematch clause, and they will definitely do it again. Charlo would definitely take that fight again, because he probably would make more money in the rematch than he would in the first fight. So that fight would definitely happen if Charlo wins. So if that is indeed the case, then Terrence Crawford will be looking for another fight after he fights Spence again and presumably beats Spence like he did in the first fight. Now, I think a fight that possibly could be made for Crawford if he doesn't get the Canelo fight, if Canelo loses to Charlo, will be a fight with WBO, or soon to be WBO junior middleweight champion Tim Tszyu. Now, Crawford and his team has already come out and said that they're not going to travel to Australia and fight Tim Tszyu, who does big numbers over there in Australia. He's on Australian pay-per-view when he fights over there, and he's fighting in front of big crowds, producing strong gates. But Crawford, a guy that just got through doing 650,000 pay-per-view buys versus Errol Spence Jr., has shown to be a big attraction in his own right. So him and his team has already come out and said that they're not going to go to Australia and fight Tim Tszyu. Tim Tszyu, who has had several of his last couple of fights over here in the United States, will have no problem coming over here to the United States and fighting Crawford. And that could be a big, big fight, because you'll have the U.S. market and the Australian market putting on that fight. So that would be a possible fighter that Crawford can fight if Jermell Charlo upsets the apple cart and beats Canelo Alvarez. Now, if Canelo wins, the public will be clamoring. The public will be demanding Canelo Alvarez to take on Terrence Crawford. Will Canelo take that fight? Canelo finna be, if he's not careful, caught between a rock and a hard place. He already said he don't want to fight Benavidez. He said he's not fighting any more Mexican fighters. Haven't fought a Mexican fighter since 2016 when he took on Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. That fight had a lot of bad blood leading up into the fight. Him and Chavez Jr. going back and forth. That left Canelo with a sour taste in his mouth, and he doesn't want to fight his countrymen anymore. He's looking to fight, Eastern European style fighters and African American fighters. Basically, he's not looking to fight any Mexican fighter. So if that's indeed the case, he don't have a lot of other options outside of a Crawford fighter. Maybe he takes on Tim Tszyu. Like I say, Tim Tszyu has a strong following in Australia. He'll be able to bring in that Australian market, and that's a feather in his cap when you come into the negotiation tables with Tim Tszyu. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. That was some of the options for Canelo Alvarez to be successful versus Jermell Charlo. A Terrence Crawford fight, which would be a mega fight, or a fight with Tim Tszyu, which would do good numbers. Like I previously said, with Tim Tszyu bringing in the Australian market and Canelo Alvarez bringing in not only the U.S. market, but the Mexican market. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. But Terrence Crawford is a man that keeps receipts, and he is definitely sitting on top of the mountain, sitting on top of Mount Everest, looking down on all these people that was keeping him from climbing that mountain, not giving him the opportunity to climb that mountain. And now that he's finally climbed that mountain, when Errol Spence Jr. did what Keith Thurman didn't want to do, or Danny Garcia didn't want to do, gave Terrence Crawford that opportunity, and Terrence Crawford seized upon that moment and put on the best performance of his career. Now, a lot of people saying that he's getting a little bit too much credit for putting on that type of performance, acting like Terrence Crawford ain't been that dude, forgetting about the Felix Diaz fight, forgetting about the Victor Postol's fight. Those were two virtuoso performances. Those were two Picasso performances. You know Picasso, when he makes those masterpieces, those paintings, that's what Crawford been doing. It wasn't just the Spence fight. He did it in the Felix Diaz fight. He did it in the Victor Postol fight. He's been doing that. Terrence Crawford is that dude. And he's shown to be the best fighter of this era that took the throne from Floyd Mayweather Jr., and we are now in the Terrence Crawford era. Make no mistake about it. And let's just see what his next fight will be after the rematch with Errol Spence Jr. Follow me on Facebook, Gerard Briscoe. Like, share, and subscribe to JB Sports. The man, the myth, the legend. And I holla.